stand before you unfinished. It felt necessary to begin this conversation about creativity and capitalism in this way, because being on a stage like this one might make it seem like I've got all this situation figured out. I don't. I do believe that creativity is our birthright. I believe that creativity is revolutionary. I have been in a relationship with creativity my whole entire life. Are you creative? I see some nodding. And I'm like, some nodding saying, yes, I am, Nadia, so get it. And I also see some familiar, just this look on your face that I've seen too often, right? That I know that there's a little voice inside of you probably saying, no, I'm not creative. I wish I was, though. For the past 15 plus years of my life, I've worked in advertising. I've worked as a brand strategist with a really specific skill set in design and visual communication. And during that time, I've had countless clients tell me, well, Nadia, I'm not creative. That's why I hired you. It would break my heart every single time. Every time. Wouldn't fail. The definition of creativity is the use of imagination or original ideas to create something. You would think, with a definition like this one, there would be more people walking around the world like, yeah, I'm a creative being. And unfortunately, I think we could probably all agree that that idea that we all have this boundless creativity within us, it's not quite reinforced in our daily lives. Perhaps some of you have had the privilege of being able to have your imagination grow and become a part of you. I have had that privilege. You see, my parents come from opposite sides of our planet, Morocco and Colombia. And while they did their best to instill their shared values in me and the way they raised me in this third place called the United States, you could say that space was like a perfect breeding ground for creativity to flourish and for imagination to grow. There was always so much difference present at all times. This is a photo of my favorite couch of all time. My dad created and built the frame of this couch using wood that was part of the fence around their house that toppled over during a hurricane. I'm from Miami, Florida. We get storms there. He took the wood, he built the frame, but literally, like, years passed, right, between the storm and him actually making this couch. So, like, held onto the wood, right? Like, this is gonna be useful at some point. Meanwhile, my mom took these hand-me-down linens and got foam, made the cushions that you see on top of the couch, right? When I sit on this couch, you better believe that my whole body absorbs the fact that I was raised with deep creativity and richness. Looping back to more recent times, I realized that I had kept my creativity intact, right? But the only reason was because it was my job. It was my profession. It's how I made money. And so that gave me a permission slip to be able to go about my world and be pursuing my creativity, keeping it intact. You see, when we are living in a system called capitalism, basically, we are only being allowed to keep our creativity intact if it's the way that we're making money. And essentially, if you're not making money from your creativity, then you're walking around most likely believing that you're not creative. Over time and just lived experience, I realized that living in capitalism has us disconnected from our creativity, and that actually feeling torn from our creativity is a natural consequence of living in capitalism. When this all linked up for me, I couldn't deal. I left the industry that I was in, started my own business, which at this point is devoted to guiding people back to their creativity, back to their birthright. And I'm not done yet. I'm still on this winding path. I stand before you unfinished. Living a creative life means living non-linearly, being open to possibility, feeling capable. Living in capitalism is the polar opposite, focused on this idea that if you have something to figure out, you better buy that solution instead, right? So when we're living in capitalism, we tend to begin our ideas with, what can I buy? Academy Award-winning filmmaker Bong Joon-ho had this beautiful quote that I wanted to share with you all. I tried to express a sentiment specific to the Korean culture. All the responses from different audiences were pretty much the same. Essentially, we all live in the same country called capitalism. Yo, how has living in capitalism disconnected us from our creativity, for real? According to Adobe data in 2016, 69% of adults felt disconnected from their creativity, felt like they were actually precisely not living up to their creative potential. 69%. These numbers make sense. How could we possibly be living up to our creative potential when we are constantly being told that our main purpose in life is to consume? Bear with me here. Let's say, we're gonna walk through an example. Let's say that I need something, right? Chances are I'm not gonna open up the doors to my imagination and be like, what am I gonna create today? Knowing me, I'm gonna include myself in this one with all that I know, right, and all that I believe. I'm probably gonna ask myself, what can I buy? That's gonna be my first step. Capitalism has us asking, what can I buy, as a first step to everything. Here's the thing. When we take that as our first step, what we're actually also saying is that if I bought the thing instead of making it or coming up with a creative solution, that thing would probably not be as good or as perfect if I had bought it. This is what we're subscribing to every single time that we're choosing capitalism over our creativity. The main thing that I realized is that disconnection, it's not okay, right? In the words of US American poet and activist Audre Lorde, we must recognize and nurture the creative parts of each other without always understanding what will be created. So let's do something together. I'm gonna ask you to follow me on an exercise. It's not gonna make much linear sense, but I hope it's gonna support you all in a different kind of way. So, here we go. I'd like you all to close your eyes. And don't worry, if you do not feel comfortable closing your eyes because you're in a room full of strangers, just lower your gaze on the ground in front of you, and you can look at the floor. And I'd like for you to take a deep breath in and out through the nostrils and relax the body. And with your next breath, I'd like for you to open up the doors to your memory and remember a time that someone made something, created something, and shared it with you. You got it? Could be anything. A funny poem, really deep thought, cool dance move. Beautiful. And I'd like for you to remember how that made you feel to receive that. Perhaps you felt admiration, connection, camaraderie. Another deep breath in and out through the nostrils. And now, I'd like for you to remember a time that you made something that you felt good about. Everyone got it? Awesome. And I'd like for you to remember how that made you feel. If you don't remember, you can just imagine what it felt like. Did you feel more confidence, more joy, more pleasure, more pride, more capable, more you? Gently opening the eyes again, or lifting your gaze if you were looking at the floor. The room changed. Y'all feel that? This is what's within your reach all the time. When you center your creativity, when you center the creative power that lives in you. And if that felt like a far reach for you, know that it's not your fault. Feeling torn from your creativity is a natural consequence of living in capitalism. And so I ask, embrace your creativity, reclaim your creativity, acknowledge that it already lives in you, And you don't need a job or a degree or some kind of title to be able to hold that title, and nor does anyone else for that matter. We are all creative, standing here together, unfinished. Thank you. Thank you.